Okay, we're live, and I will call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Before we adopt the agenda, there are three changes I'd like to make to the agenda. 1A, dealing with the resignation of Councillor Donna Courage. And 1B, we'll put it as 21, by-election. Did I miss one? Didn't that write something down? That's got it, yeah. So 21, we'll call by-election, the other numbers will change. And we'll put resignation of Donna Courage immediately after adoption, and then I'll address that.
I will make a motion to adopt the amended agenda.
Okay, all in favor?
Sorry, just one comment
Oh, what did I do
procedurally.
wrong?
You need a motion to amend the agenda, and that needs to be.
Oh, it can't be the same motion?
Yep, so the additions need to be by unanimous consent.
We haven't done this the year before, so.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, you're making a motion to adjust, to amend?
Yes, I make a motion to amend
The
the
agenda.
agendas.
All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, if somebody could make a motion to adopt the amended agenda.
I move to adopt.
Councillor Schultz, all in favor? Carried. Well, first off, we'll address the unfortunate, with regret, that Councillor Donna Courage has resigned from council. So we will necessarily have to have a by-election. It is unfortunate that she chose to resign. I'm not going to really address too much of it at this time, but we'll just carry on from there. I don't really have, kind of lost for words on that. So. Okay, so we will move on to the minutes from July 16th.
They all looked good to me, so I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes as presented.
All in favor? Carried. I guess getting back to that, I could read the media release that I'm going to put out. Would that be appropriate for, no? Put that out after? Okay. Okay, we'll move on. We have delegations tonight, 3 of them. First one, MP John Barlow. There he is.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. How are you, Council? Good to see everybody. Good to see you. How are you doing? Good to see someone I haven't met before, but
Gavin.
Gavin, John, we met before.
Yeah.
I see you out of costume today. Good to see you again. Great, John. Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Keith, how are you? Keith, how are you doing?
I'm well, sir.
Good to
Thank
see you.
You too.
Well, thanks for taking the time. I don't want to take up too much of your meeting, Mr. Mayor, but really, I wanted the opportunity to just talk really quickly about some of the things that issues that we've been hearing from constituents. I've been spending a lot of the summer door knocking. I was in Claire's home today, as a matter of fact, and speaking to folks. And there are certainly a few things that have come up over and over again, and I'm sure there'll be no surprise to you, certainly. But also really get some feedback from you. We head back to Ottawa in a few weeks. I just want to see if there's some things that I may not be talking about that you think I should be focusing on, that are some of the issues that you are facing or hearing from your constituents as well. So really I would say by far and away the 2 major things I've been hearing from folks over, certainly this summer, but over the last few months, is rural crime, legalization of marijuana, and the carbon tax are the three things that I've been hearing the most from people. On rural crime, just to give you a bit of an update on some of the work that we've been doing. As you may or may not know, we held several town halls in Foothills last January and February. There were dozens held around Alberta from my colleagues. We took all of that feedback that we had from our residents and we put it together in a report. We had literally hundreds of recommendations from people. And I do want to commend the folks who did attend these town halls. absolutely, there's anger and frustration from our constituents and our residents who are angry. Many of them have been hit more than a couple of times, can no longer get insurance. It's become so bad for some of them. But they didn't come in there just to vent. They came in there with real substantial ideas, things that we can actually try and accomplish. So over the last few months, we've whittled them down to several hundred, to a couple of dozen that we think are quite substantive, are tangible, things that actually can be accomplished. We've put that together in a report from myself and my Alberta colleagues in partnership with some of our UCP MLAs. We'll be submitting that to the House of Commons in September. As part of that, we had a motion that received unanimous consent in the House of Commons in May from Shannon Stubbs in Lakeland here in Alberta, asking the Public Safety Committee to do an in-depth report on rural crime, not only in Alberta but across Canada. So every parliamentarian agreed to do that. So that'll be the first study that that committee undertakes in the fall. So our report will be submitted as part of that study, and then the list of recommendations will come from that. It will be submitted to the Minister of Public Safety, who will then have to respond to those recommendations. I don't think you would be surprised, but a lot of those recommendations went around RCMP resources. People aren't upset with the RCMP. They understand that they have they lack the resources to do their job. And a lot of that falls upon us as federal elected officials to try and ensure that they have their resources, but there is a partnership with municipalities and the province as well. Sentencing was a big one. People are frustrated with the endless cycle. These perpetrators are caught. RCMP are just as frustrated with that. They're caught, go through a very short term of incarceration, and then are back on the streets and doing it again. So they want us to try and come up with some sort of resolution there. The one thing that did surprise me, and I was pleasantly surprised by it, is a lot of constituents and a lot of people who participate in these town halls, the one thing that they really wanted us to focus on was mental health. They feel that it's not enough for us to deal with the consequences of rural crime. We have to start taking a look at what is the root cause of crime overall, certainly rural crime. Our Alberta economy has made this much more poignant for us in Alberta because people are desperate, and then desperate people do desperate things. Addiction, all these things are wrapped into why we're seeing such a profound increase. And I shouldn't say profound increase, because if you talk to your RCMP detachment here, they may say, well, our numbers are showing that there really hasn't been an increase. But part of the reason is because people have been hit so many times, they don't have insurance, they're not reporting it. Or they're so frustrated, they're not reporting it. So we're not seeing the data back up what we're hearing from our residents. But I think if you talk to your residents, not only is it more profound, but much more brazen than anything we've ever seen before. They're being hit in the middle of the day. People are walking in their house when they're home. I've had dozens of stories along that line in my riding of people having armed folks come into their house. They may be high, they may not be quite all with it, but the fact that they're doing this says a lot about what we're facing. So that's really the number one thing I'll be dealing with when I go back in the fall. The carbon tax, I think we've been obviously people have been very outspoken about that in this riding on where they stand. We just sent out another survey on that this week that you may have gotten in the mail. We want to hear back from folks on that. But for yourselves, I think with October, with the legalization of marijuana, this is something that it's going to happen. There's nothing we can do about that. Our fight was around the guidelines, restrictions that go with it. We're going to continue to be pushing on the drug impaired driving. That part of the legislation hasn't been passed yet. We see a lot of problems with that. But the frustrating part for you is all of this is being passed on to you with no resources for you to handle it. And that's really going to be a big push for us, is working with AUMA and AEMDNC in Alberta to get them to be vocal on ensuring that you have the resources, whether that's RCMP, dealing with drug impaired driving, but home grow up. Do you have bylaw officers who are going to go door to door counting plants? I'm not sure how you're going to deal with this. So I'd really like to get your feedback on that as well, and some of the things that you're going to be experiencing once this is legalized, or even as we come up to that, which is only a couple of months away. Are you ready? Pretty much every municipality I've met with this summer is no. We're not. And this is a lot for you to take in a very short amount of time. So those are the three quick things, and I don't want to take up too much time, but I really do want to hear from you if there's some things that you want to discuss too.
You know that we have a medical marijuana facility.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you know when that's supposed to be open?
October,
Yeah.
Same time.
Yeah.
same time as it becomes legal.
Yeah. That's been going on for quite a while, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And
Almost
And
almost a year.
I've been kind of lucky, like this one, Claresholm and Stavely are the only two that I know are kind of along the pathway to being approved and constructed. So it hasn't been a huge influx here in terms of commercial size grow operations. That certainly may change.
Well, the one thing, it brings jobs to town, and if it's gonna happen, at least we're gonna benefit from some of it.
Yeah.
The regulations are gonna be the problem, but we just hope we can get that ironed out in time. I guess we'll see. I did find interest in one of the comments you made about mental illness and resources, and that's one thing I feel is really lacking with this government. And I'm talking provincial. I'm not sure how that mandates the federal, but I know quite a few people personally that I've met that really have problems accessing mental health, and they have minor issues, or some of them a little more than minor issues, and the access is just not there. I mean, you can wait. People with chronic depression, that kind of bipolar, they can wait 6 to 8 months just to see the first appointment, and
Yeah.
I find that really, sad that we can't help those people more, because Claresholm has a large population of people that have gone through the care center,
Right.
that are under treatment and doing quite well. But you still see a lot of people coming in that can't get that access,
Right.
just because the resources aren't there.
Right. And the caseload for those who are there is so overwhelming.
It's
It's
huge,
difficult.
yeah. Yeah, the resources are small, and the population asking for it is huge, so it's putting a strain on it, and I think a lot of people are falling through the cracks.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. And, for us at the federal side, you're right, Mr. Mayor, it's more of a, healthcare is a provincial issue, but we supply the funding for Alberta Health Services, or, a large chunk of it. We've been able to maintain that when we were in government, and, I haven't seen significant cuts, but it's I guess maybe for us at the federal level, if we had a national mental health strategy, we could somehow put some strings to those funding, is that you can't just put this into general revenue. It has to go to certain programs, and maybe that gives us some leverage on how these dollars are spent. And I can't speak for other provinces, but we've certainly seen in Alberta that a lot of that funding earmarked for AHS is just going to general revenue. It's not trickling down to where it should go. And I'm not saying that's with this government in particular. It's just that's been the story, right?
Been the
It's
trend for
when you're
years.
trying to go through the bureaucracy, it just doesn't filter through.
No.
So I think you have to find some way to, find efficiencies in the system to make sure that the dollars that you are dedicating to those programs actually get to those
Actually go
programs.
to those programs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a nice change,
Mhm.
because there's definitely a shortfall there.
Yeah, and it's, Alberta, when we were in government, we increased the transfers to provinces by 6% every year to make sure that it kept pace. But Alberta Health Services grew beyond that, and now it's almost 50% of the provincial budget. It's unsustainable.
Yeah.
Alberta cannot afford to continue to have its health costs. It's one thing if we saw results with those increased costs, but we're not. So they've got to find, that's going to be up to, Rachel Notley, if she's the premier, or Jason Kenney, or whoever.
Whoever's the next premier.
They're going to have to try and come up with they're going to have to make some hard decisions, but it's clear what we're doing now is not working.
Yeah.
My son's gone through mental health issues, and I know how hard it was for us to get access. We've been very lucky, but not every family has been that lucky. So, and then once he's over 18, things
It
changed.
gets harder.
So it was much more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can
Hear
appreciate that.
Hear that all the time.
Hmm.
Once you're 18,
Yeah, once you're an adult, totally different game.
you're on your own.
Yeah.
A national committee on mental health, just to set guidelines for everybody, be a great idea as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Just some kind of a body that could direct funds and monitor the situation, survey.
Make sure the funds are going where they belong.
Right. Do you have any specialists who come into Claresholm on a regular? Like I know you have the Lander Center, but you're saying you have a large population sort of falling through the cracks. sort of amenities do they have here? Is it just they have to go to this Calgary or Lethbridge to access
We have the
those, or-
care center, which is a mental health addictions care center.
Yeah,
It used to be just mental health, but now it's a mental health addiction center.
Right.
And we have ADAC, and we actually have FCSS here, which has a large clientele in that. And, well, our population is a large segment of it is government employees here. So naturally, you know, we have a large number of outpatients who have become very active parts of our society and are doing quite well. It's not those people, they've found the system and they work within the system, they're doing quite well. It's the people that haven't got into it that I worry about. And I see a lot of that, and they don't know how to access it. I know I've got one friend who's desperately trying to get into the system and see a psychiatrist, and it's months to even get a referral.
wow, eh? Okay,
The medical clinic here has a designated person that's all she does is mental health.
right,
But if you look at her agenda,
yeah, that's one
it's
person,
4 weeks.
yeah.
Like
So
she's
one-
booked for 4 weeks. She's here 3 days a week, I think, but she's booked for 4 weeks. So
Right,
And we
somebody
have-
comes in, it's like, okay, you know, 5 weeks from now we can get in. But
Yeah, it's a tough road. And we have social services downtown which see, you know, a number of patients, and they do have a psychiatrist comes, I think, once a month. Not sure about that exact schedule, but I know it's just not enough.
yeah. But I'd like to, as we move forward and go through this, I'd love to work with you and see what kind of solutions we can come up with. It always helps when it comes from the ground level, and you are seeing it day to day right in your community. So certainly as we go through this, I'd love to meet with you again and talk about it and see what we can do.
municipal funding, that's a big question mark for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it seems to be a guessing game right now. Who's getting what, how much, who's supplying it?
Well, in the new structure the Liberals come out with, where it's more or less a P3 situation where you must partner in for large projects and stuff. That has certainly curtailed a lot of possible future funding that we used to see.
Right. Well, so the P3 program is likely gone, and now it's going to be this infrastructure bank. So I don't know if
Yeah, it's the same
Sort of-
situation. Infrastructure bank, you're borrowing money, you're partnering with private
Right.
enterprise. They've renamed it, and they've actually made the criteria tougher as far as.
Tougher.
it's going to be
from what
much more
I've read.
difficult for municipalities.
So
to
it's kind of
access.
taking the municipalities of our size out of the
For
the
sure.
picture.
No question.
It's all big city stuff.
Well, it's big city, but you're adding yet another level. Like in the
Another
perfect
hurdle.
world, I would like to take the province out of the equation altogether. And when you have infrastructure projects of a certain size, we fund it. It just goes to the province first, and then they give it to you. So if the province doesn't if it's your priority for you, but the province doesn't make it a priority, you're not going to get those dollars. They're coming from us. So I think in the perfect world, we have to find a way to wean the province. We don't need a middleman. We can work directly with one another to get those things done. It's just not the way the system works. But to now add the infrastructure bank in there, now instead of dealing with 3 levels, we're dealing with 4.
Yeah.
And you're right, Mr. Mayor. The way the infrastructure bank is going to work is they're going to have $35 billion in which to play with. But now you're having a whole nother level of bureaucracy, another board of directors, with very little accountability on how these dollars are spent. So, being the skeptic that I am, it has got scandal written all over it. I just feel like the dollars are going to go to very pet projects, friends of friends, and private corporations who have very strong lobbyists. It's not going to go to municipalities
No,
the
it's not.
size of the ones that I have in my riding. Okotoks included, 30,000 people. They don't have the manpower to apply for these
No.
grants through the infrastructure.
You have to have a
How are
whole
you supposed to do
department.
it?
Yeah, you need a whole department dedicated to trying to get that money accessed and
For sure.
and working, lobbying for it. And it just, I went to a seminar on it and I read the literature on it, and it's a way of cutting the smaller centers out of the picture.
Mhm.
I mean, it certainly it simplified their lives. Now they have this one board, the bank that they deal with, and it cuts all the smaller people out because it's just way too complicated.
Yeah.
And by sticking the province in, you're sticking that, like, I agree with you, get the province out and get that bank out, so you're dealing directly with the federal government, and you've lost all that bureaucracy.
Yeah.
All that red tape is gone, and you could get a lot more bang for your buck.
Which is why, you know, in our last couple of years in government, we had the small communities grant, infrastructure grant. So we knew that communities under 100,000, which many of us argued was still too high, and I will still make that argument, was too high. It should be around that $30,000 mark, that there was money earmarked for municipalities of your size that couldn't go anywhere else. It couldn't be sucked up by Calgary and Edmonton or Toronto and Vancouver. It had to go to smaller rural municipalities. We'd love to bring that back in a smaller, with a smaller population size. Unfortunately, we have two levels of government right now, in provincial and federal, that it's all urban.
Yeah.
You know, us growing up here, it was always east versus west, right? You know, the west wants in, but I feel the battle now is urban versus rural. The votes aren't in the rural communities, and we are just being neglected. Neglected is maybe a little harsh, but we're not the higher priority.
We're not on a level playing field.
No.
I mean,
And that's across Canada.
Oh, not just Alberta.
Western Canada.
No.
yeah, this new funding structure is a problem right across Canada. It's destroyed any chance for any community under 500,000 to
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
get any substantial funding. It sounded so wonderful when they presented it, until you
Yeah.
actually read it,
Yeah.
and it's not that wonderful.
Well, as soon as they announced that our alarm bells were going off, it didn't sound
Yeah.
good. It's, you know, we're trying to eliminate bureaucracy and red tape. I'm not a big fan of adding to it.
Adding
let alone
layers.
a whole new department, a whole new bank. Oh my gosh, I can imagine what it's. So if they're going to have $35 billion, I wonder how much that's spent on administration and bureaucracy, and how much actually gets dished out.
I think it would scare us to find out what the accounting
Yeah.
is.
Wouldn't like it.
We
No.
wouldn't like it, no.
Yeah.
They're creating another Alberta Health Services account. Yes, I said that on camera.
But I think it'll be a big election issue is infrastructure dollars for rural municipalities, and you know, you'll have me on board 100% to advocate on your behalf. And you know, our small towns are the lifeblood of my riding, and we have to ensure that you don't just survive, that there are ways for you to thrive, and you cannot thrive. Internet access, things like that, are integral pieces of infrastructure that we have to make sure that we can get.
Yeah,
Not just downtown Calgary, but
no, it's important.
MD will agree. There's home.
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
Well, I hate to cut you short.
No, honestly, it's.
So we got a busy night, but
Absolutely.
I would like to state on behalf of the council, we sure appreciate you taking the time and coming and seeing us and listening to some of our concerns.
Pleasure.
And if you ever come through again, we'd love to have you back.
Sure. It doesn't have to be this formal. If something does come up that you want to talk about, just let me know. And we'll make sure that we get out here as quickly as we can.
Okay.
We can have something that's not during council time.
Oh, sounds good.
Yeah,
And I was just gonna, just for the, when we were talking about the health services stuff here in town, it's not necessarily, like I said, I think it's just the lack of funding, more money that way, like the people who work in all the health services here bust their,
oh,
Sure.
yeah, I am not,
they bust their hump, like they work hard.
Yeah.
I know some people that work there, and what they do with what they have is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think anybody questions that. It's, again, how is that money being filtered down? And do they
Yes.
have the resources they need to do their job? And
Okay.
I just think more and more, it's not the
yeah,
case.
it's
Yeah.
same as the RCMPs.
Sure.
They're not given the resources they need to do the job effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I would never say anything bad about any of the resources we have in town. They do their best, they work hard.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, thanks very much for your time, and
Thank you, John.
stay in touch.
We'll do that.
Have a great council meeting. Pleasure. Yeah.
Take care.
Have a good week, you guys.
You could stay, you know, for a while.
We got more doors to
See ya. Okay, the next one, the sergeant for the RCMP detachment in town, Greg Standard.
No pressure after that.
First of all, I just wanted to mostly come to introduce myself officially. I met one of you in my backyard in the golf course, and otherwise, but I'm
I'm
Greg.
Gavin Moore.
Yeah.
And I didn't put a ball in there either.
And no, your ball wasn't there. I
No.
looked for your name.
What Dalen tells you about me is a lie.
That's not what I heard.
Perfect.
Anyway, I mostly just again wanted to introduce myself, and I can touch on a couple of the things that Mr. Barlow said. Not being able to make any comments on our resources, obviously that's way beyond my level, but it is true, rural crime is an issue, and not just here but everywhere. And that's something that we're seeing. I look at some stats today, but unfortunately they don't split properly with town versus rural for me. I'm trying to get that so that, like I said earlier, it doesn't help you guys to know what's happening in Staveley, for example, but it's how my stats show. So, but you can see the trend is the same regardless. Property crimes, persons crimes in town is no different than it is other places. So that certainly is true that it is kind of on a little bit of an uprise. As far as lack of resources go, again, I can't comment that I get what I get, and I don't have a lot to say on it. Obviously, we always want more. Can always ask for more. Never going to get it, but I will try. I just wrote a couple of his notes there. Sentencing being too low. Yeah, again, I can't. It's hard for us to comment on it, but it's very true what he's saying. Like we get as frustrated as the next guy when you hear. I just watched a little bit of the news today. The lady that murdered her husband, I think, was in Lethbridge, and she had 5 years. Well, she pled to manslaughter or something, but got 5 years. But she's already done 3 of them in pre-custody, so she's going to be done in 2 years. I don't know. I can see how from the public's point of view and my own is like, wow, that's a lot of work for what they get. But anyway, again, it's something that's so out of my hand. Mental health, though, I will comment on that. I see a lot of that here, and it is very true that we don't have a lot of places to take them. And you know, I can say in the last 5 days, I've dealt personally with 2 different people that I've taken to the hospital, kind of on their own, convinced them that they should do that as opposed to me arrest them under the Mental Health Act or something like that to get them there. So that's kind of that. But it is true. There's a lot, and you just know that you're only solving the problem for a very short time. And like you said, Sarah, was it could take a long time for these people to really get the help they need. And whether they do or not, that sometimes doesn't work. But yeah, I just wanted to comment on that because that was right before me, and kind of it's probably all on your minds. And certainly feel free to ask me anything that you like about it. I've only been here since June, so I don't have, it's not like off the top of my head, but I will do my best to answer any questions you might have.
How about the highway?
How about the highway?
Red light. I personally cross that red light every morning at between 6:15 and 6:30. And it's not uncommon for me to see a green light as I'm coming up to the intersection and see a semi go through in front of me. About, I'd say, an average of 2 out of 5 mornings. Like, to me, that's something that I really would like to know if there's anything we can, do to.
Some increased enforcement in that sort of area there.
Yeah, like I always say, you can tell a local person because their local person pulling up to that light slows down and looks before he crosses even on a green light.
Red or green, yeah, that makes sense. And that's something too. Like it's worth. I know it's hard to get a license plate, but there's always that option of being able to. If you get a license plate, we can always send tickets to registered owners, providing that you, in your case, provide a statement.
When you're here in the semi-zone.
Yeah, but you know what? Does it help at the time? You don't know. But I mean, we can't be everywhere.
No, you can't.
But when we do know that it's a situation like that, I'll take that back right away. If it's that early in the morning, I'll get the odd guy to maybe start a little different shift. And
It's always.
It's always, I
Always
notice
early
it more
morning,
at that
yeah.
time because I'm habitually up and heading over to my shop.
Mhm.
But it's a fairly frequent thing.
yeah,
You see the
Just because they know.
they know there's
No,
nobody
I
going to
see.
enforce it. There's the
Yeah.
occasional car runs it, but
Yeah.
9 times out of 10 it's a semi.
From my workplace, when we're getting ready to leave, it's late at night, from 9 o'clock on, you'll see the increase.
Yeah.
And first thing in the morning, we're there at 5 in the morning, and well, there'll be blatant red lights, and they'll slow down to 40 maybe, but they'll keep running. So it's a consistent issue.
It's a major concern of town because I think we've only had 2 people over the years that have died at that intersection, which is amazing in itself.
Yeah, that's true. The light itself, is it, I don't know how it's governed, is it your guys', like towns?
No,
Or is it
it's-
provinces or?
Well, it's the Department of Highway.
or not? I was only thinking of traffic cam.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Voting for-
it's not our highway, so I don't think we have,
We have, sorry if you'd
Yep,
like to
go
speak
ahead.
to that. We did look into it in the past and it would be at the town's expense to do that, so.
what
We
was,
can pursue it further if council would like us.
what was the cost on it? Do you have any
I'm sorry, I
recollection?
don't remember off the top of my head.
It's something that maybe we could pursue
It's
and look
just a
at.
thought, and it doesn't matter if it's Edmonton or Calgary, once they put in photo radar, I'm not a fan personally, but people have actually slowed down, and it does sort of work over time. Doesn't work right away, obviously the guy's already through the light and you can't do anything, but, the next time he comes through town, he won't do that, right?
Probably you
So,
get a reputation.
Yeah, now,
They learned quickly.
It
I-
depends, because, well, with photo radar, you're not losing any demerits, right? It's just cash out of your pocket, no big deal, right?
yeah, but with big trucks, all that
Big
cash is
truck.
going to, or all those tickets are going to the companies, cause they go to registered owner,
Mm.
and companies don't like that kind of stuff on their
They don't
record,
like
right?
it.
So-
Cause that'll go
And,
up.
and people, I mean, I'm not an expert, I'm not a truck driver, and I never have been or never really want to be, but, it's pretty, from what I understand, it's pretty hard to keep your job if you start getting in trouble as a truck driver, because there's thousands of them around without jobs, so if you start getting tickets like that. And it's just a thought, and I've never worked in a place that I've seen any numbers of where they got it, but I mean, it may cost a bit to be installed, but if the money comes back to, probably won't, because it'll be on a provincial highway, but apparently there's a fair bit of return, and that shouldn't be a cash cow, but it shouldn't be a concern, I don't think, with the cost of it, if it's gonna, first of all,
that's
stop them
something to
from
look
doing
at.
that, and then you do get a little bit back to offset the cost. Yeah,
It's
It's a thought.
That's a good thought. I'd like to see something investigated, because it is dangerous on that highway.
It's
Any
just
other-
the citizens are completely aware of what's going on and they're very cautious when they come up.
Yeah, no, I guess that's good in itself, that's,
But you get somebody visiting town, green light, drive,
yeah.
and we see it there quite often where there's small minor accidents, and because what's green light? Nobody's gonna run that.
Well, not that many years ago, I worked Leduc and Highway Patrol in that area, and I still can't believe there's a traffic light on Highway 2 at all, because it's just, to me, this is so much less traffic than there. It's an unbelievable amount of difference from north.
Well,
of
they kept
Calgary.
threatening to go around us, but they've
I
never
was,
found.
I was just noticing the pictures in the back there, so.
Yeah, that was the study about, it must have been 8 years ago. But the funding is not there, so we don't have to worry about that at this stage of life.
I'll certainly put it out to the guys that, if anytime they want to just work some odd shifts or weird times, to go ahead and do it and concentrate on that particularly. It's sort of, you can, even if we're just doing patrols in the area, it's going to slow it down. Plus, just seeing, those guys will see us eventually, in that area.
Well, they talk a lot back and forth.
They catch on quickly.
They do
sure.
catch on.
Yeah, sure.
Because for a while, we had our own special constable, and we were putting radar on the highway 2 or 3 days a week, just various times of night and day, and it was amazing how the traffic slowed right down.
Mhm.
But we've since lost our funding there, we lost our constables, and we're looking at, that's another project we're looking at.
Right, okay. Well, like I said, I didn't pull any numbers off for this time. They didn't really make enough sense to tell you. The one thing, and it's small town stuff too, is that when you look at trends, and they have little graphs that I can get, but if you have 0001, it looks horrible, because there's such small numbers.
Yeah.
If it's like 150, 140, 250, then you really see,
Then you see it,
there's a
yeah.
change. But there's some trends that you can sort of see that are going up, and I'm going to start, especially if I get what I want as far as, and that can include traffic stats and that kind of stuff, but split down to town, separated from Staveley, separated from Willow Creek, then I can show you exactly what you're seeing, and I'll just send them as I get them, sort of thing. I think they do them quarterly, hoping to hear back from the guy tomorrow that we get something like that.
That would be great.
Then I can just maybe forward them by email to Marion, and then you guys can see them as we go. And I'm more than happy to come back anytime you want me to and chat some more. Or
You're welcome all the time, so.
Thank you very much.
That's great.
Any other questions at all? Or? I'm sure we'll see you around town.
Yeah.
You betcha.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your backyard.
You bet, sounds good.
Okay, the third one, citizens on patrol.
Hello. Do I have to sit in this big chair?
You have to sit in the big chair.
You know why we're here. You've just heard from two
The-
top-notch gentlemen.
Yeah, the theme seems to be crime tonight, hey? So
Yeah.
we are Citizens on Patrol, Claresholm District, which means Claresholm, the airport, and Staveley. We presented in front of town of Staveley last month, and they were very receptive and excited to get volunteers for us and stuff. I'm Pamela Gilchrist. This is Larry McGuire and Joseph Moore, and these are my right-hand guys.
I'm on your left.
Don't make things difficult, Larry. All right, so we're also a part of the ACOPA, which is Alberta Citizens on Patrol Association, and there are COP groups all through Alberta. I forgot to write down the numbers, so I'm not sure, but we're from Pincher Creek all the way up to Sexsmith, Alberta, and if you don't know where Sexsmith is, it's way up there. That's where our annual general meeting is this,
In Sexsmith? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
in September, so we're gonna be traveling a ways. Our mission statement is Citizens on Patrol acts as the extended eyes and ears of the local law enforcement agencies. So we have a liaison officer from the RCMP detachment, Constable Coates, and he comes to meetings and he lets us know where the hot spots are and what we should be looking for and what's going on. And we also talk to each other because we go on patrol. We go in twos, and one of our ladies stumbled on an area where there's a bunch of kids parked, and when they left, they saw her coming. They left, and she found all these condoms laying all out. So she stumbled on Lover's Lane. So we talk to each other, and then we find out these weird things. So yeah. We also go around, we hit probably 20 businesses every time we go out, and we leave these little dog cards that were passed out. We put the dates and the time we were there. Then we write in our logbooks that, you know, we went, left a card, everything was quiet. We just gingerly stick it in the door because we don't want to set off any alarms. Before we go out, we call the police officer on duty. We have his cell phone number. And he knows we're out, he knows what vehicle we're in, he knows what we're doing. Because a lot of times we get called in as suspicious because we are driving around and then people start following us and it gets a little difficult. But, when we see something, if we call our guy on duty, unless it's a 911 call, and we don't get out of the vehicles, we don't become part of a crime scene. We also have flagger training. We went to Pincher Creek and we actually paid for our own books and stuff. We're asking for financial support tonight because it's hard to ask people to do a 3 to 4 hour patrol once a week when they have to pay for their own gas. I can't even afford to go out and patrol because I can't afford to throw $20 a week into volunteering just for gas. Because we do all of Claresholm, we go out to the airport, we do the acreages, and we go up to Staveley. And we report anything on the highway between here and Staveley as well. So 4 hours is a good time to cover all that area. So we're asking for $2,500 a year. That is 2 patrols a week at $20 gas per patrol times 52 is $2,090, which we rounded out to $2,000, and then $500 in promotional fees because we need promotional materials. These pamphlets are a wreck. So they really are. I don't like pamphlets because a lot of people don't read them, but we need some eye-catchy material. We need to be able to recruit people. we need, t-shirts for ourselves to say that we are part of COP. We need some, reflective vests that have COP on them, because we do have the flagger training, so we can be called out by the police. They don't know yet that we have our flagger training, but, we buy manuals at $13 a manual for people, new people that come in. And we presented to Stavely, we asked them for $500 a year, because they're so much smaller, and they're offered us $1,000. So, hopefully we're getting that from them, and hopefully we'll get some support from you folks. We've received $500 from the Lions, and we've received $300 from Agrium.
Yeah.
So we're out there actively pursuing funds to keep us going and to pay for our folks to go out there and patrol. Right now, we only have 6 people. And I hate asking for volunteers when I have to say, but you have to pay for your own gas.
Yeah.
So, that would help us immensely in keeping this community safe.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, and we
Is
are
anybody-
looking for volunteers.
Yeah, we are.
If anybody on council or the audience would like to volunteer.
Lise, you're the toughest one.
We'd surely take you on.
She's got the candy throwing guns.
And not only that, may I just add, thank you, President. We also document all our patrols, so those are available to council at any time. We do all the industrial and the streets too, right, as we pass through.
Yeah.
And as we heard from the, both the constable, the sergeant, and our member of parliament, if there is stuff happening, we are willing to be those eyes and ears out there, and we're willing to volunteer. As well, I've been doing this for a year. I've asked for nothing. I don't really want anything, but for the community's sake, yeah, we'd appreciate any funding, absolutely. So, if you got it within you, if you got a little budget to spare, we'd appreciate that totally.
We have a little bit of proof that this works. Well, we have a lot of proof, but some definite proof. Myself and another member went out to patrol the Stavely Pro Rodeo, and we have magnetic signs that we can put on our doors if people feel comfortable doing that, marking their car with Citizen Patrol. And every time we drove by the beer gardens, people always walking up with beer, they'd see our little sign and they just turn around and go back in. So
So it's having an effect.
it does, yeah. Plus we got to see the fireworks too. Yeah, it really works. We do this because we love our community, and we know the RCMP hasn't got enough resources to do everything. And we get a lot of people telling us, well, the RCMP should be doing it, but we should be involved in our own community as well.
You know, I
Not
think the
just-
Citizens on Patrol is a good group.
Well, one of
It's
the,
been
one of the
effective in other
situations that we
areas.
noticed,
Pardon?
excuse me, so one of the situations we noticed, there was a very apparent drug transaction that's east of the high school, in the
Oh.
parking lot there. And we sent that report in, and not as many show up there anymore.
So it's having an effect there
Wow,
too.
it was just,
No, it definitely will have an effect.
Yeah. Another thing is, ACOPA has developed an iPatrol app for tablets. We'd like to get a couple of tablets because when you go out and patrol, you enter it in, and if you see something like graffiti, you can just touch the little button that says graffiti, take a picture of it, you can speak into it, all of your notes, because some people don't have the best writing, so we have trouble reading reports.
you go.
We won't say any names. So it's great, and we have somebody on our team as well who is what's the word I'm looking for? He's got learning disabilities, so to be able to just speak into the
Yeah, that would make a
app
difference.
would be awesome, and it's been developed by our IT guys for this. And then at the end of the night, we can actually email it into the RCMP to say what we've done, and this is the reports.
Well, it sounds good. The standing rule of council is we will discuss this at the next meeting and come up with a decision for you
Okay.
guys. But I'm glad you came. I'm in full support myself of it. Any questions from the council?
Does Grantham have its own citizens on patrol separate?
Grantham, no, they're affiliated with Fort McLeod.
Oh,
Fort
okay.
McLeod does have a citizen on patrol. Nanton does as well. Yeah, there's a lot of COP groups, and I wish I had counted them. I have a map where they all are, and there's, well, I think we're getting close, probably 80 all across Alberta, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but
Well,
some
that's quite a
people have
few.
large areas, like Pincher Creek does Cowley, Pincher Creek, and Lembrick.
Yep.
So they have a large area,
large
so,
area.
yeah, it's not just little towns that have their own little groups.
Well, I'd like to thank you for coming. And we will definitely be talking about this. It'll go on the agenda for next meeting, and we will discuss it, and we'll come up with an answer for you.
Perfect. Thank you for your
Thank you for
time.
doing what you
Thank you.
Well, thanks for coming out.
Thanks, Al.
Great presentation. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, first action item, bylaw 1651, cannabis retail stores, first reading. Marion?
So the act regulating retail cannabis is coming into effect on October 17th, 2018. So in preparation for that, we have prepared an amendment to the land use bylaw to accommodate cannabis-related uses in the bylaw that would be in accordance with both provincial and federal legislation. This has gone to the Municipal Planning Commission for their recommendations and review, and they are putting it forward for first reading this evening. Most of the changes I'll just highlight. We changed the definition of medical marijuana to call it cannabis. It's the language that's being used federally now. Retail store and retail stores large scale do not include retail cannabis store or liquor stores, and those are within a separate use, and they remain discretionary in the land use bylaw. So those would all have to go through the planning commission process of approval. As well, there's requirements that the retail stores shall meet Alberta Gaming and Liquor Commission eligibility and obtain a license through them, as the legislation states. Also, there's some hours of operation for the business would be 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. daily. And there would be separation from other uses, and all of those are 100 meters from the property line of any public school, provincial health facility, or daycare or childcare facility. Those are all mapped out in your background information there. So this is before you tonight for first reading, and it's the first step in sort of trying to address, as MP Barlow spoke about, the changes to that legislation in the municipality, making sure that we have regulations in place to manage that change.
I'll make the motion to give bylaw 1651 first reading.
Okay. Any further discussion on it? Question, please.
Moved by Councillor Moore to give bylaw number 1651 regarding a land use bylaw amendment, first reading.
All in favor? Carried. Number 2, correspondence from Premier Rachel Notley thanking us for our letter of support for the Trans Mountain Pipeline Expansion Project. This is information only. Number 3, correspondence from the Honorable Shane Anderson, Minister of Municipal Affairs. And this is the funding. Marion, you want to overview this a bit on the ICFs and IDPs?
Sure, so the minister has signed an order where there's some exemptions and some extension to the requirements in the Municipal Government Act for the intermunicipal collaboration frameworks and the intermunicipal development plans. And those are basically related to those municipalities who their boundaries are between federal or provincial crown land and the municipality, or as well the rural to rural municipalities, so that those rurals can focus with their urban partners, so they've been given a year extension. As well, any municipalities within growth management boards, because they've kind of gone through a very similar process already. And as well, municipalities that may not be a member of the growth management board but fit within the boundaries of those boards. So those extensions have been given to April 1st of 2021, where our deadline is April 1st, 2020.
Okay, we'll take that for information. Next correspondence, again, Honorable Shane Anderson, Minister of Municipal Affairs, the gas tax refund. That's the structure for it. Marion, do you want to give us an overview?
So this is the gas tax funding that comes as a grant to us through Municipal Affairs, and we've submitted 2 projects that are qualifying this year. One is the airport to lagoon sewer main upgrade, and as well our 2018 sidewalk ramp retrofits. And so that's just for information that those have both been approved.
Okay. Number 5, the Honorable Shay Anderson, Minister of Municipal Affairs, the 2018-2019 Fire Services Training Program grant that's available. Do you want to address that?
Yeah, again, it's $500,000 in grant funding, so that's not single funding, it's total funding. And it's for increased training to support fire service personnel. So I have forwarded this on to Todd, so they can look into making an application perhaps through the MD of Willow Creek for the region.
For the region.
And be able to do some additional training there with potential funding.
Do they need any kind of letters of support from our half for that as well?
Once they get the grant application, they probably will need a letter of support, but if they go through the MD, it'll come from the MD.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see what comes of that. Todd will keep us informed.
Okay.
Number 6, Government of Alberta update, stakeholders legalization of cannabis. Is there Marion?
Again, this is just for information. Municipal Affairs is just, actually this came from, the Solicitor General's office. Just trying to keep municipalities up to date on what's happening with the cannabis legislation. So again, the act comes into force on October 17th, and there is provincial legislation that has been put in place. And basically what this says is that the Government of Alberta will continue to work with municipalities to try to work through some of the issues that we may be facing as this develops over time.
Okay. Number 7, correspondence, Alberta Justice Solicitor General changes the peace officer program that will affect us direly. Marion.
Okay, so in June of 2017, there was a public fatality inquiry conducted because of the death of a non-duty community peace officer. And following the receipt of that report, a review is undertaken by the Justice and Solicitor General's Department, and there was 3 of 4 recommendations that were accepted under that inquiry. The first of the 3 changes is that they are going to implement 1 standard of training for all community peace officers, and that standard of training, even though the job functions may remain the same, that standard of training will be at a CPO level 1 training, and that requires that they have to qualify and carry a baton as well as OC spray, and in addition they would be required to wear body armor while on duty. That would become mandatory. So The second is that authorized employers are to draft policies that prohibit a CPO from attending any location where there is a known threat. And then the third recommendation that was accepted is that the authorized employers must institute a manned central communication system to track and communicate with CPOs, and that will, include requirements to check for list of known threats. So we currently have a CPO 2, so we understand this will have some implications to us. They're supposed to be doing some public information sessions in the fall, so I'll make sure that I attend those. We've also been in contact with the Solicitor General's office to talk about what that actually means for our program. So as we get more information and we understand more what the implications of these changes will be, we will bring that forward to council for further discussion.
Okay. Number 8, Fortis Alberta Save Energy Grant. Well, this is information on the grant we received for the arena. The town applied for this, or did the minor hockey?
The town did.
The town applied for this and was granted, and we received $3,000 for updating our lighting. And they're going to use it in the dressing room areas, are they not?
Yes, it'll be for automatic lighting, so, so they shut off when people aren't in the rooms and those kind of.
Nice.
Nice.
That's information. Take to number 9. ATCO Gas Distribution, the franchise fee forecast. Marion.
Okay, so we have a franchise agreement with ATCO Gas, and annually we're paid a franchise fee, and that's based on our agreement with them, the percentage of the natural gas use. And so it's all related, the percentage we get back or the amount we get back is all percentage of what their revenue is. There has been a couple of changes, 2 rate changes that have occurred that will impact the rates in our community. Those were in place in March and April of 2018. They anticipate that will decrease the overall delivery rate that our community is paying, and so that in turn, of course, will reduce our franchise fee amount that we receive. So the new forecast for 2018 is $102,655, and in September of 2017, when we did the budget, that was estimated to be $110,573. So we'll just see a minor reduction, $8,000 and change in our franchise fees for 2018. So it's just for information.
Okay. Number 10. A letter of support for CPAP grant application for the golf course for handicap and railing and landscaping. Block the wind on that southern side. They've applied for this grant. We gave this letter before for this application last term. Did they?
I don't believe so. I don't recall if we've given them a letter of support before on this,
I
but
thought they did apply
this is a
for it.
new application.
The new
that will be
application,
going in the
anyways.
September application period, so they're asking for letters.
Yeah. And the money will go directly into the facility, and it's a matching grant that they will match. So.
Is draft going on?
I'll make a motion if you want to.
I'll make the motion that we write a letter of support for the bridges and for their CFEP grant for the work that they want done.
Questions?
Moved by Councillor Zimmer to write a letter of support for the Bridges at Claresholm Golf Club's application for a Community Facility Enhancement Program grant for the purpose of making upgrades to the clubhouse.
All in favor?
And,
are you modifying it?
well, just because they want to do maybe some trees too, so the trees won't actually be on the clubhouse. It'll be on the yard, right?
So it's still on
With some, do we have to be that picky with where that money's going?
Marion, do we have to be that?
No, I don't believe so.
We don't have to be
It's
that specific?
The upgrades are to the clubhouse facility and
And immediate
parking lot
grounds.
areas,
Oh,
so
okay,
I think it covers it.
then I agree.
Question again, please.
Moved by Councillor Zimmer to write a letter of support for the Bridges at Claresholm Golf Club's application for a Community Facility Enhancement Program grant for the purpose of making upgrades to the clubhouse.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, request for decision, 2018 sanitary sewer replacement, and I do believe we have an engineer in the room that would like to speak to this a little bit. Is that right, Marion?
I'm Brian Kent of WSP.
I'm Brian.
You're about the only familiar face. I don't know if you can remember me. It's been
I
back
do
in the
remember your
Larry Price
face.
on
Somewhere I met you before.
Yeah.
Was that the
Well, I
water
used to
treatment
be-
plant?
I used to work in development officer, bylaw officer, back by Larry in that back corner.
I do remember you now,
Oh,
yes.
Nice.
It's been a long time.
It has been.
You look younger than that.
You look younger.
So I'm not sure how you want to do this, if you want to just kind of fire away with questions, or if you want me to kind of...
First, well, Marion has something. I was thinking just an overview of this replacement pipe and the savings
You
and.
can have a chair if you want.
Sure.
Instead of standing.
Can I?
Yeah, Marion, go ahead.
I'll just give you a brief overview of how we've got to where we are today, and then maybe Brian can speak a little bit to the product that we're discussing.
Okay.
If that's okay. So, at our July 16th meeting, we brought the tenders forward for the sanitary sewer replacement from the airport out to the lagoons. And at that time, the tender that we put out had specific product, of course, involved in that, and the budget projection was 1.14 million, and the project total came in at 1.661719. So that at that time, council made the decision to hold off on that project and perhaps retender in the spring or late fall with maybe perhaps some other projects. So we contacted WSP and let them know of council's decision, and at that time they took it upon themselves, which I appreciate, to talk with the supplier as well as manufacturer and look at whether there was an opportunity for cost savings on that project. And so they've come back with an alternative pipe type, which in essence would save us approximately $400,000, which is significant savings. So I've asked Brian to be here tonight just to speak to the difference in the pipe and what the implications of that are, because I'm not an engineer. I can read, but that doesn't make me very smart sometimes. So I've asked him just to speak a little bit about, whether that's a good product. We believe it is a good product, but he can speak to maybe the more expert opinion on this.
Okay. So,
So is it a newer product on the market? I see from the
It is.
literature it's been used out on the coast quite a bit.
yep, yeah, we have several approval letters from, various cities and municipalities on the West Coast. I'm not sure if it made it into your packages, but there was one from the city of Calgary. I believe that was kind of a project specific, or it says a limited approval. But the product is fairly new. It's made out of a new material, where the previous one was just kind of a standard, and it was made by IPEX. It was an ring tight SDR 35. And that was kind of a standard in most municipalities. Certainly not to discourage that. And actually the people that are providing the pipe actually sell both. They sell the Sanitite product with the HP, which is the one that we're proposing be accepted as an alternative, at least in the use on this project. And they also sell the IPEX product. So, there's various specs and technical data and stuff, but the basic is that for all material purposes such as pipe stiffness, joint, as far as a lab test, field tests, things like that, it's equivalent or better than the IPEX pipe. So one thing it's got going for it is the ring type product only has a single seal. So where the bell and spigot are connected, there's only one seal. Mm-hmm. And with the Sanitite product, there's actually two seals. So that, of concern, is seepage. So sewage being seeping into the ground adjacent material and stuff. So this kind of gives you a little bit of backup. Another pro, I guess, kind of for this product, and this information, again, like I said, is coming from the supplier that provides both products, and that's the delivery. So right now, there's a lot of work being done, a lot of pipe going in the ground. So we're looking at probably a 6 to 8 week delivery for the IPEX pipe, and that you would get kind of an initial shipment, and then you'd have to progress with the work, and then the material would come in stages. Whereas the Sanitite pipe, it would be like 7 to 10 days delivery, and you could have ultimately 2.5 kilometers worth of pipe show up on the site. So
Right away.
yeah. So we recommend, we're comfortable. We're looking at, there's several projects, and I believe that was one of the other attachments, but there's at least like there's 3 pages, maybe 25 different projects. City of Calgary, Medicine Hat, Red Deer, Airdrie, Coaldale, where this pipe has been used. I mean, yes, it is a fairly new product, but the people that are giving it approval are continuing to give approval, and so especially in the city of Calgary.
That makes me feel better hearing
That it's
places
actually-
where there's frost penetration, because the coast does not have our frost penetration. So hearing Airdrie, Calgary, Medicine Hat, places within Alberta, that makes me a little more comfortable with this.
For sure. And typically the IPEX pipe is a 4 meter or 4.1 meter joint or length of pipe. This product is 6 meters. So installation actually goes quicker, and it's a lighter pipe because of the resin that's used. And so it's easier to handle and to get that pipe installed. So it's just kind of the pipe, comparison itself. I mean, there's other information I can provide if you have questions.
How does it compare? I was reading about sulfide.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It compares to the
It does.
normal pipe, or is it better?
Because we do. You bring up a good point. So we have quite a bit of sulfates potentially in our soils. So we always spec, high sulfate concrete and whatever it is to protect for that. And it does provide the same protection as the PVC.
So the resin line is, because you're dealing with sewage, you have, it won't deteriorate under H2S?
No, it shouldn't be any more vulnerable than, say, the PVC material that we typically use.
Then what does that work out to? Just trying to think with our pipelines. I think with H2S, and I think if you introduce water and minerals, you can get iron sulfides out of that. How does it hold up again? Those are probably not too common in sewer, but the potential's to be there.
The PVC, I mean, it's not just used in sanitary or storm or whatever, but it's also used in water supply nowadays. And we've seen, pipe that's been installed, 50, 60 years ago, and you pull it out of the ground and it looks just like the day it was installed. So, and that was actually on a job that I worked at in Medicine Hat, that we did a upgrade to their infrastructure there, so.
And there's no issues, there must be adapters to tie it onto the pipe that's there, because it's a change up you're doing from an existing line.
Mm-hmm. And we can look at some options, but we have, with the foresight that was shown when the existing lines and modifications were given, there was some stubs that were kind of installed. And it does provide a benefit, but it also, we don't believe that it would act as a deterrent to using this pipe. As far as adapters and things like that, it might just be easier with what we're dealing with to actually pull out the existing pipe and,
Just change a little more.
fit it, yeah. We'll obviously try and use it where possible. And that maybe be where we can add some more, more research into seeing what's
there.
adapters are available.
Repairing it afterwards if we have problems? It's no different?
No, it's actually, it may not have made it in there, but they show, actually it might have been in this pamphlet here. Anyway, but it does show kind of a repair situation, and all you'd have to do is just cut out that segment of pipe, and you got these stainless steel or whatever clamps that go on to make the repair. actually
What diameter are we using?
I don't know, what's the diameter up there that was specified?
750.
750.
Yeah.
So that's
Oh,
the
it does show the
three
repair
wall.
cost.
Yep.
Maybe shows the repair cost in there.
Yeah, I see.
And there's an example that we had in Grand Prairie, because not a lot of the projects that we offered, for examples, were of the same or comparable size. And so the Grand Prairie one was a good example, because they actually put in over 5 kilometers worth of pipe. So it's a good product, good size comparable project. And that was actually 2015, 2016.
And they'd have similar water table stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely seen maybe more frost penetration, so that's reassuring. Was there any other questions?
You might have already asked, how new is this stuff?
How new?
Yeah.
The projects we have as examples, it's like 5 to 6 years. But it's establishing kind of a track record. And I think that's why, actually I know that's why. We sat down with the contractor and with the supplier, and they're trying to establish a track record. So that's why on a project like this, it gives them an opportunity to kind of show what they can do.
Get the
I mean, they've got it in some projects and stuff of varying sizes and stuff. But it's just, that's why they're motivated and willing to provide the pricing. But it's for this project. It's not something that they're offering to everybody. And I think, as I mentioned, the material, the polypropylene, it's
Gonna go up in price.
it can, because it's so connected, the resin itself is so connected to oil prices, it tends to be a little bit more volatile, but they are willing to hold it until you're comfortable making a decision on this.
Okay. The only other thing in here was maybe, Marion, you give us a little overview. The funding is wrote out here, where it's coming from. If you could just give us an overview on the funding.
Sure, so, if we do proceed, this is still going to be slightly over budget, $139,219, which is significantly less than what we originally anticipated, but, MSI funding, we currently have available $575,700. Does not include this 139, but does include the additional, funds for the arena that we were unsuccessful in the CFEP grant, as well as $380,000 for the road projects that were deferred to 2019. And as well, we have 1.3 estimated for phase 2 of the stormwater management project, which 130,000 of that would have to come from MSI if the ACRP grant is successful. So we've considered all of that and still have 575,700 left. So we're recommending that we move forward with awarding the contract with the stipulation that there be a change order to reduce the contract by the $400,000, and then approve that over budget expenditure to come from MSI.
That'd be 2 motions, or
No, all one
within one? Okay, any other discussion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, questions?
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to award the contract to Elite Site Services for the tender amount of $1,523,300 plus GST, along with the change order to reduce the contract by $400,000 and approve the over budget cost to a maximum of $140,000 to be funded out of MSI capital grant funding.
Clear as mud?
Clear as mud.
All in favor? Carried.
Okay, well, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming.
No,
Thank you.
It's been a few years since we meet you.
Appreciate you coming out.
That must be 10 years ago you worked here.
It's been
A long time.
There's a lot of new things.
Yeah, a lot of new things in the world. We did something.
Thank you.
Take care. Okay, moving on to number 12, lease agreements, multi-use community building. Marion.
So we're working with the Child Care Society as well as the high school, looking at trying to apply for additional grants for the multi-use community building. One of the stipulations on those grant applications is that they have current leases. They do have a current lease, but it's in this location, and so we've presented for your consideration a letter of understanding for both of those organizations. In as much as when and if we move into the multi-use community building, they will have lease space in those buildings, which will then allow them to apply for these grants and perhaps help with some of the funding.
Sounds good.
Make the first motion then for the Learn Lot High School lease agreement.
Yep, that's first. Any discussion on it? Any questions?
Well, they have to go, right? They have to come with us.
No, they're coming with us. Question?
Moved by Councillor Moore to sign the letter of understanding with Learn a Lot Play School for the purpose of the location change from 221 45 Avenue West to 5318 2nd Street West for the terms of the existing lease agreement upon completion/occupancy of the multi-use community building.
All in favor? Carried. Second motion.
I'll make the second one.
Councillor Schultz. Question, please.
Moved by Councillor Schultz to sign the letter of understanding with the Claresholm Child Care Society for the purpose of the location change from 221 45 Avenue West to 5318 2nd Street West for the terms of the existing lease agreement upon completion/occupancy of the multi-use community building.
All in favor? Carried. Number 13, request for decision library 2019 CFAP funding. This is, do you want to do it, Marion, or do you want me to?
I can give you an overview.
You give the overview and then I'll talk to it.
So the library is looking for a letter of support. They'd like to apply for a CFAP grant to replace the flooring and HVAC units at the library building. What they've been doing is looking at what their asset replacement potential life cycle is and trying to plan for the future of replacement of those units. And so we've talked to them about the HVAC. The HVAC is still in fairly good condition based on the last inspection that was done. And as well, the mayor has actually spoken to them about the condition of the carpet there. So there was two options that we put before you. First was, their request was for a total application of $49,978, which would be town funding would be required would be $28,318. Without the HVAC units, the total amount requested would be $28,000, and the town's funds out of that would be $6,340. There's a couple of things they'd like to get the application in for the September deadline. Obviously, our budget discussions will take place in the fall, so to commit those funds at this point in time, in essence, you would be committing future budgets for those dollars. And then I believe, Mayor, you have some comments to make
Yeah, I'd
after
like
your
to-
discussions with them.
I've talked to Public Works about it. They went up and had an inspection done of the HVAC. And it's in fine shape. What this was they were thinking it was aging and a preventative, let's replace it before it goes and starts causing problems, but it's not really there causing problems yet. Then I went over and talked to them about the flooring, and it's the same situation. The flooring is getting aged. It's not showing, I don't think, too bad a wear yet, but it's never been cleaned since the building was put up. So I would like to defer this so we can do a little more research to next council and take a look at, well, do we really need to do the flooring? What I think the library personally should be doing is budgeting, and they should be laying a few $2,000 or $3,000 a year aside for projects like this, so as they can have the matching funds. But just to replace this stuff right now without doing some research, like the HVAC is not, it'd be a waste of money doing it right this time. But the carpet, I'd like to have a little more serious look at it first before we agree to it. But I also would like to recommend to the library, and that'd be, have you take that forward, that they start budgeting a savings plan, so that they have some money in reserve for capital projects. They should always, any functioning committee like that should have a capital reserve budget going ahead, so they're ready for this type of project.
Maintenance.
So it's just my thoughts, I mean, what do you guys think of this?
I could think it just needs to be cleaned, that carpet. I think
Well, maybe, I mean, let's have somebody look at it, and let's not make a rash decision, but they, well, if we take it to next council, we can still make their deadline, so.
Age of that building and the HVAC?
The building was about 15 years old? That'd be close?
2003.
It went up after I moved here, so about, yeah, I'd say about 15.
That's my guess in that area, 14, 15 years old. But we've had it inspected by a heating company,
Yeah,
see that
and
there,
it's
Ted?
fine.
yeah.
So to replace something that's working well does not make sense.
And there's many stages of an HVAC fail that will signal need before,
Yes.
Before replacement.
yeah.
For its
So this
complete
is-
failure.
Yeah, and most of them can, I mean, at 15 years old, it's not that old a unit.
No.
I mean, and that's what really scares me about, like, engineers project the life of a building, a life of an appliance. It's not necessarily based in fact.
General maintenance, there should be no issues with a 25-year lifespan on a unit.
How old is the clinic?
Well, they was in the 70s.
They just replaced one,
Yeah, it's,
so, yeah. Lifespan's a lot longer than 15 years.
Well, the other thing is, we could invite the library board here to talk about this, or I'm quite willing to go to a library board meeting and just get more information, so.
You should do that.
If we could postpone it for one meeting, if everybody agrees, and
still make the
you're our
deadline if they
contact
have.
person, so you find out what they want, and if they want to come here or talk a little more in depth, I'm quite willing to do that.
I'll do that.
Let them know, bring them down.
Like bring it down.
Well, meetings are sparse in the summer though.
Or I don't think it's dire right now, but I also don't want to put them on the spot.
That CFEP they could apply for any year, right? Every year it comes around?
What's the feeling of the table?
I agree with that. I think we should.
There is a spring intake on that grant as well, so.
Yeah, so we can make the spring one.
There is.
Yeah.
in a generally well-operating system, even if you start expending to it due to failures, you can create more lifespan very, very simply. So, yeah, I don't, throwing out as preventative doesn't,
No.
It's only
I think we
15
should
years, yeah.
So do we need,
Get more information, and then if it
Option
turns out
two.
that they do need it, well, you can still hit the spring one.
so
if
can
not.
we bring it back for more information next council meeting? And
Just table it.
just table it till then? Table it, is that the right term? Oh, I thought tabled had to be dealt with at the end of the council meeting. Not quite up and
Table
all.
to the next meeting. is
Table
what
to
it
the
is.
next meeting. And somebody's gotta make a motion for that,
I'll make,
or do we just do it?
I'll make that motion if we need it.
Councillor Carlson will make it if it's necessary.
Oh, God.
Our delegations ran a little long.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
They were worth
they
it.
were important ones.
Yeah.
Do we have?
She's just typing it out.
You could do it, type, you could type faster. Yeah, 2 fingers.
Sorry, Blair.
I think Keith was a little long-winded.
I'm sorry.
When you change stuff, it takes me a minute.
Jeez, Keith.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Carlson to table discussion on the request from the Claresholm Library Board for letter of support for their CFIP grant application to the next regular council meeting on September 10th, 2018.
All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, arena advertising policy update. Marion?
First of all, I'll apologize for this, but on June 11th, council passed the arena advertising policy, and we noted an error in that. There was 2 different sizes listed for those boards of 30 by 48 and 30 by 96. However, it should only be 30 by 96 size. And so we've made that correction, and we're just asking for you to approve that amendment.
I move to approve it.
She beat you.
No, that's fine. I was just gonna ask. So, what I noticed is on the rink board you got the east, and the rink board you got the west. If the decals are the same size, why are the fees different?
It's exposure.
Yeah, visibility, all that.
Visibility.
More
That's-
bleachers on one side than the other.
That's just for the visibility thing. Okay,
Prime locations.
sounds good.
Any other questions? Question?
Moved by Councillor Schultz to adopt policy number RECO 818, the arena advertising policy, effective August 13th, 2018.
All in favor? Carried. Number 15, request for decision, property tax penalty appeal. Mr. Wicks. Right.
So there's a request from Mr. Wicks to waive the penalty that was charged on his 2018 tax and assessment notice. He called in on July 20th and said he did not receive his tax notice. The address that we had was the same that was sent to him last year. We had no record of a change in address, but he did not receive his notice. As per the policy and the bylaw, administration does not have the authority to waive those penalties, and so it's before council. This one as well as the next one on the agenda actually fall under the same policy.
Any questions, discussion?
So he got one last year. There's no proof that it didn't make it to his house.
But we have no record of anything being returned to us, no. There's no returned envelopes or anything.
But that's one little question I have. Taxes are due at the end of June. That's pretty well universal across Alberta, isn't it? It was adopted about 5 or 6 years ago. Where
Yeah, you can set the date. It would be fairly common that it's due June 30th or July 1st. That was changed in Claresholm. It was before my time.
2012.
4 or 5 years
Yeah,
ago.
about 2012.
12, I believe.
It was changed from August back to July, but it's been that way for.
Yeah, I remember when reading in the paper when it was changed, there was a recommendation. The provincial was trying to standardize it across Alberta. So Calgary he lives in Calgary. Calgary must be June.
Just one note that Corinne just reminded me of, last year actually our penalty date was extended by 2 weeks. And the reason for that is because the mill rate bylaw wasn't passed in time for us to meet the time
meet the-
deadlines
yeah.
that are required. So the penalty date was July 14th last year.
Comments, questions? Thoughts?
I don't know, I don't feel I'm responsible, the town is responsible for paying for, it's our responsibility to pay our taxes on time.
It's unfortunate that he didn't receive it because he changed addresses.
Well, did he change addresses? We
Yeah,
have
he
no-
did
oh,
change
that was the
addresses, but he
problem,
failed,
is that he changed it, but
he failed to
let us
notify
know.
the town that he was
I don't-
changing his
I don't see how
address.
that's
But
the town's responsibility.
responsibility of a taxpayer is that for the last 6 years, that, other than the one extension, it's been on a regular basis.
And he would've got his tax notice in Calgary, so he knew the tax notices were right. So it kind of blows that out. So,
And I think it sets a precedence, does it not?
Yeah, I worry.
well,
about
that's the other
opening
thing, you're
that
setting a
door.
precedent.
Yeah, I think it's an unfortunate error in the processing of it, but on his end. But that's the penalty for not paying on time. I'm not prepared to.
Is anybody willing to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to deny the request.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Carlson to deny forgiveness of penalties on property taxes as requested on the property located at 5231 4th Street West.
All in favor? Carried. The next one, we have the same request, Mr. Gustman. Little different explanation, but he did receive his bill. Any questions, comments on this one?
I think it's a similar situation. Same standing of history of payment and history of time beforehand. Again, unfortunate that he missed the deadline, but responsibility of a taxpayer.
Well, he did have his bill also, so.
It's unfortunate, but if I made the error in paying my taxes, I'd have the same penalty. And that would be my error,
Yeah.
because I forgot to do it. So I'd make the same motion of to deny forgiveness.
All right, question?
Moved by Councillor Carlson to deny forgiveness of penalties on property taxes as requested on the property located at 21 Saskatchewan Crescent.
All in favor? Carried. 17, request for decision. The land for walking paths. Now, this is the Agriplex agreement. Marion, you got lots of information.
So the walking path extended from Division Avenue to DeRoche Drive. We required, in order to get proper drainage still through 8th Street ditch, we required approximately 15 feet of land to come up through the land that actually is under lease to the Ag Society. So it goes up from Moffett Park all the way up through, but the Ag Society has a lease on that. So I talked with David, and we came to a negotiation that the Ag Society would be willing to give us that 15 feet of land for approximately 870 feet long. We would move the fence over, but they would just be looking for a donation because they'd be losing a portion of their leased land, so that they could put a donation towards the construction of the new building. So what we have before you tonight, and the Ag Society has agreed to this, to donate $5,000 to the Willow Creek Ag Society in compensation for the removal of approximately 13,050 square feet from their leased lands that they have, for the purpose of constructing a pathway from Division Avenue to DeRoche Drive.
Questions?
I thought it sounded good. I'll make a motion to donate $5,000 to the Ag Society.
Any questions, debate?
I just had many compliments
Yeah, it looks
on
good.
that pathway for the ball tournament this weekend.
Mhm.
There was kids going up and down that pathway all weekend on their bikes, walking.
Yeah, it's been well received.
And that, I've been walking on that new one by the Kinsman one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great path.
Yeah, there's been lots of good feedback on that. Okay, we have a motion by Councillor Zimmer. Can we hear it, please?
Moved by Councillor Zimmer to donate $5,000 to the Willow Creek Agricultural Society in compensation for the removal of approximately 13,050 square feet from their leased lands for the purpose of constructing a new pathway from 59th Division Avenue to Deroshi Drive along 8th Street West.
All in favor? Carried. Number 18, request for decision, the old water treatment plant lands. Marion,
Okay, so as council's aware, we did an appraisal on that land, and council gave direction to put the property out for sale by sealed bid. The closing date on those bids was August 1st. We did receive 2 bids, one in the amount of $177,777, and one in the amount of $200,001. So the lands were offered for sale on an as-is, where-is basis, and the town makes no representation or gives no warranty whatsoever as to the adequacy of service, soil conditions, land use districting, building and development conditions, absence or presence of environmental contamination, or the developability of the lands for any intended use for the successful bidder. And that's how it was put out for tender. We did receive 10% bid from both of those, so our recommendation is that we accept the bid in the amount of $200,001.
and $1. Were there any conditions on the bids, like they were just clear cash bids?
The as-is, where it's that, yeah.
Well, I guess that's a no-brainer, we take the bigger one.
Can I make that motion?
You can.
I have another, just for clear, this just might be me being too picky. Because we set out that's how much that land is. If the creek floods and he loses land again, do you gotta go out and reassess how much his land is and compensate him? It's just, this is it, one shot deal, bang.
Yeah.
That's in the buyer beware part, I think.
Sounds good.
As
We'll
is.
make sure there's proper documentation in place on the sale agreement.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, question.
Moved by Councillor Moore to accept the bid by Jeff Richards for the old water treatment plant property located at 428-1223 Northeast, which is 16.58 acres, in the amount of $200,001.
All in favor? Sold.
I get a kick out of the $1.
Well, the $1 just in case somebody bid 200.
Yeah,
I
you just
imagine.
want
The price is right here.
That's exactly what it was.
Like Jeopardy.
Okay, number 19, request for decision, multi-use community building project. Marion?
Okay, so the multi-use community building ad hoc committee met on July 18th and August 8th to discuss the process and steps moving forward for the renovation of the old elementary school. One of the discussions was the potential of a cost savings by hiring a project manager and making sure that we had somebody who was there was oversight on the project, rather than depending on engineers or the architect for that process. We did meet with Mike McAfee, who has experience in that. He brings a wealth of knowledge with those buildings and has done some work, obviously, with the school division over the years that you're probably all aware of. He would be willing to work as a project manager on a per diem basis. So the committee is recommending that we move forward with that. And any funds for that would come out of the approved project budget as it currently sits. Also, the building permit issuance and completion and the coordination between all of the engineers, electrical, mechanical, and structural engineers would need to be overseen by an architect, so that we've got some consistency and we've got some professional accountability there from the architectural perspective. So the committee is also recommending that we do a scope change with BRZ Architects, who's already done the concept plans, and that we move forward with them. They use NPE engineering, which we're familiar with and are comfortable comfortable with them as the engineering firms. Also, the committee is recommending that as part of that process, we use a third-party cost analysis, and that came actually from the suggestion and discussions that we had with Mike. The third-party cost analysis would be done on an ongoing basis and would help basically it keeps the engineers and the construction costs in line with budget, and would be able to monitor that and foresee any problems that we might come into with cost overruns. And so it's an independent analysis of the budget as it moves forward with some expertise there. So basically there's 3 recommendations there. One would be that we enter into the contract with Mike McAfee Consulting for the project management, and then also recommend the acceptance of the scope change proposal from BRZ Architects, which includes that third-party consulting. The other thing that was discussed in those meetings was that the committee will meet on a regular basis, whether that's monthly or once construction would begin, it would be more frequently, to ensure that council is up to date, the committee is made aware of any projected projects as we move forward, and then all decisions would be brought back to council for ratification prior to moving forward with that. So in a nutshell, that's kind of.
That's it.
I make the motion, we hire Mike.
That's the first motion, okay?
So to have this guy come in, that's an additional 287 over what we thought already?
No, it would be included in the
overall
original
budget.
budget estimates.
Instead of hiring an engineer to oversee it, the architect would take
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so just for clarification, so the project manager would be on a per diem basis, so basically he'd oversee the project. And then BRZ Architect would be the professional that we would enter into the contract with for this $287,000. So they'll go to the final design phase of electrical, mechanical and structural engineering design. So then we would be ready, they would also oversee the tender process, all of that. And then Mike would be like the manager of that. So he would be working with not only administration, but the committee as well as the architects. So sort of be the liaison and
And I'm
the
just,
overseer of the.
So is this 287 already in the original budget, or where does this
Yes.
come
Yeah.
from?
Yes,
Yeah.
it would be included in our cost estimate of the 3.5 million.
so it's not over and above the 3.5, it's not adding.
We're not
It's
adding.
already-
No,
It's already part.
and the reason it's before council is because policy says anything over $200,000 to award a contract, I need to come back to council for that approval.
Okay.
So we're doing a scope change under BRZ Architect, so it requires a resolution of
So
council.
he becomes like the general contractor.
Right, no, I
So
just,
he handles all the different engineering
fine.
outfits and all
Yeah.
that.
I'm fine with that
And
as
then
long
Mike
as
will
it's
be
not.
our liaison between, and to make sure it's going smoothly, because he's half the price or a quarter of the cost of an engineer.
Okay,
And he rebuilt that school once already. He's doing the Fort McLeod one. He's done quite a few projects of this scope.
Nice. He knows them schools inside out.
oh, no, like, yeah, no, it's not that I don't have an issue with him, I just don't wanna make sure this is another
No.
$287,000 that we accidentally forgot.
It's a necessary expenditure that's been
Right, but it's been budgeted
for.
for, okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
And then we've got the third party for transparency on
Sounds good.
any oversights or budgetary issues, so we've got a degree of transparency
Nope,
available
that's
there.
fine.
Right, every bit of it will come through, so we can keep a running commentary and sending it
I
out
was
to
a
the
little
public.
confused there too, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Question, please.
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to enter into a contract with Mike Mahaffey Consulting for project management for the multi-use community building project on a per diem basis.
All in favor? Carried. Second motion.
And I'll move to accept that scope change then.
Any other questions on that? Question, please.
Moved by Councillor Zimmer to accept the scope change proposal from BRZ Partnership Architecture, Inc. for the continuation of the multi-use community building renovation project in the amount of $287,000.
All in favor? Carried. Number 20, request for decision, draft strategic plan. We have in front of us the plan from our earlier meeting. I would like to, after talking to a couple of councillors and myself included, I have not had time to do my due diligence and research this. Would it be possible to push it over to the next council meeting so I can, so I'd feel better with it because I'd have more time to study it? I don't know, what do you guys think?
I'm in the same boat.
There's a lot of information there. A lot.
So we could get a motion to table it till the next meeting?
Okay, I move to table it.
Give Corinne a minute. I guess we better read it for next one.
Yes,
Yes.
thanks, Marion.
Yes, thank you for working really hard to get that in there for me to not read fully.
Marion lost sleep over that.
I hope not.
Okay.
Question, please.
Moved by Councillor Schultz to table discussion on the draft strategic plan 2017/2018 to 2021/2022 to the next regular council meeting of September 10th, 2018.
All in favor? Carried. Number 21, the fall by-election. Marion, will you give us an overview of this?
Okay, so with the resignation of a councillor, we are required to hold a by-election to fill that position. And as is required in the Act, once the CAO has received a resignation, I must report that resignation to council at the next meeting. And so that happened tonight, earlier in the meeting. Council must hold a by-election to fill the vacancy unless it's 6 months before general election, or if council consists of 6 or more councillors, if it's 18 months prior to, or 12 months before a general election. So in this case, we are required to hold a by-election. Unless council sets an earlier date, the election day for a by-election is 90 days after the vacancy occurs. That would be November 11th. This year would be 90 days from today's date, which I believe is a Sunday. So I looked at the dates today, or we looked at the dates today, and we're making a recommendation that we hold the by-election on Monday, October 15th. There's a number of reasons for that. There's a requirement that nomination day be 4 weeks prior to election day. So that backs us up 4 weeks. Plus, we need to advertise nomination day for 2 weeks prior to nomination day. So that backs us up 6 weeks and takes us into the first part of September. So that's why we've chosen that date. It is well before the 90 days is required in the legislation. So if council so chooses, the by-election date would be Monday, October 15th. We're also recommending that we have an advance poll, and that would be held, we're recommending on Thursday, sorry, I gotta look at the calendar.
October 11th.
Thursday, October 11th, from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. The election day runs from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. as per a regular election under the Local Authorities Election Act. Also, we're recommending that on election day, we hold an institutional vote. And that would be for the same facilities that we held the institutional vote for at the general election last October. And that is the Claresholm General Hospital, the Willow Creek Continuing Care Center, Porcupine Hills Lodge, Cottonwood Village, Heritage Manor, and Parkside Manor. And as well, if the date of the election is October 15th, then nomination day would be Monday, September 17th. And then also I would ask that council consider appointing Corinne Wilhock as the returning officer. I think it's important for there to be some separation and impartiality between the CAO and the election process, because the CAO works with council as you move forward. So that's what we did at the general election, is Corinne was the appointed returning officer, and I assisted her where needed as a deputy returning officer. So that's also my recommendation for this as well, that Corinne be the returning officer and Blair and myself be deputy returning officers. So all those dates make sense?
Yep.
I make that motion.
Which one, the first one?
First one.
Could you repeat it, please?
Oh,
I will.
Question, please.
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to hold a by-election for the position of one councillor on Monday, October 15, 2018, from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. with the polling station being at the Claresholm Community Center, located at 5920 8th Street West.
All in favor? Carried. Second motion.
What's that, oh, the advance vote. I'll make a motion to hold the advance vote for the by-election.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Zimmer to hold the advance vote for the by-election on Thursday, October 11th, 2018, from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Claresholm Community Center, located at 5920 8th Street West.
All in favor? Carried. Third motion. Institutional vote for the by-election.
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Carlson? Question?
Moved by Councillor Carlson to hold an institutional vote for the by-election on Monday, October 15, 2018, at the Claresholm General Hospital, Willow Creek Continuing Care Center, Porcupine Hills Lodge, Cottonwood Village, Heritage Manor, and Parkside Manor.
All in favor? Carried. Last motion. To appoint,
I'll appoint Corinne as chief returning officer, and
Councillor Zimmer.
If you think nobody likes me. Moved by Councillor Zimmer to appoint Corinne Wilhock as Chief Returning Officer and Marianne Carlson and Blair Bullock as Deputy Returning Officers for the by-election.
All in favor? Carried. Sorry, we get my briefs in order. Okay, moving on to number 22, financial report, statement of operations. That's just information. Any questions on it?
Need a resolution.
Oh, we need a resolution, okay. Who's gonna make that?
I will.
You gotta get to the right page. Question, please.
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to accept the consolidated statement of operations for the month ended July 31st, 2018 as presented.
All in favor? Carried. 23, information brief, enabling accessibility fund. Marion.
This is just for council information, but administration has applied for the Government of Canada Enabling Accessibility Fund. The deadline was July 26th, and so we put that application forward and also committed our funding to that, and that's for the elevator component of the multi-use building. And if that's successful, we applied for a maximum of $100,000, and our municipal contribution would be 35% of that. The budget, the projected budget for the elevator is $130,000, so we fit within those parameters.
right up for that one.
Perfect. Okay, take that for information. 24, information planning for growth project. Marion?
Okay, this is an update on the industrial land development. Over the last 6 weeks, WSP Engineering has been, and Watson and Associated Economists, have completed almost all aspects of the phase 2 portion, and they're beginning on phase 3. So they've done environmental site assessments, biophysical reports, geotechnical reports, and historical resources overview. The EDO and the development officer will be meeting with them in their Lethbridge office later this month and working with Watson Associates. And at that point, they're going to cover regional and local market assessments, projected industrial and commercial demand analysis, financial feasibility analysis, and cost-sharing model considerations. Also, during this process, WSP has identified potentials to increase the scope of the project while still remaining within our budget. They've identified the following as opportunities for a scope change. So additional stakeholder meetings with council and the landowners, and hosting those on the same day as they plan to host the open house in mid to late September. Also expand the 120 acre project limits east to the proposed highway bypass and north to the nearest change in use as per our municipal development plan, and we discussed this previously. And also expand the scope of the area structure plan to go beyond the concept planning to actually include an area structure plan as part of it. And then also complete a detailed design for phase 1, which would give us shovel-ready ground for the new year. So those, again, it's all within budget, but because their proposal was a bit under budget, they're able to expand the scope of the project, which we're quite happy about. The only other thing I guess to point out is, that they do say that they can still complete the scope changes within the projected timeline of October 31st. We did ask, or we are applying to the grant office just for a small extension to that to make sure that we have time to do our grant reporting. But the project itself is anticipated to be done by October 31st.
Nice. Beautiful. Any questions for Marion on this?
No, I think we'll have to be going tickety-boo.
Okay. Number 25, information brief, CAO report. Any questions on that?
No. Not that. Next.
Okay. We'll take it for information. Number 26, information brief, council resolutions. Any questions on that?
8th Street paving. That is gonna proceed?
Yes, actually, they are beginning the work this week on the manholes. They were going to begin on Thursday or Friday last week, and we said, please don't until after Fair Days. So I believe they were supposed to be in today or tomorrow to start the work on manholes.
Perfect. How far north is it going on 8th Street?
Right to the end of the
I
school,
believe
isn't it?
just to the end of the school.
Yeah. Was there any indication from that company whether they would look at their development or?
Not at this point.
Nothing yet. Okay. Information. So we have information items. Any questions in there? Number 27. Motion to accept information items. Councillor Schultz. Question?
Moved by Councillor Schultz to accept the information items as presented.
All in favor? Carried. Motion to go in camera.
I'll make the motion, we go in camera.
All in favor of going in camera? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are in camera. Could you turn the cameras off, please?
I'll make the motion that we come out of in camera.
All in favor of coming out of in camera? Carried. Okay, we have some items that came up from that.
Live
First-
stream.
Notice of recording.
Notice of recording live stream?
Hmm?
Notice of recording live stream.
Notice of, yes.
Nobody watches this part anyways.
Nobody watched this part. Okay,
I make a motion that we rescind, was it motion 18104? Demolition of 4712 2nd Avenue West
Street.
Street.
street. We knew what you were talking about.
Also, we make a motion to put the
Include-
property, to put the property up for sale at the appraised value.
We hear that?
Moved by Councillor Schlesberger to rescind motion 18-104 made June 25th, 2018 regarding the demolition of the tax recovery property located at 4712 2nd Street West, and to offer the property for sale at the appraised value.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, the last thing was the swimming pool, staff?
You betcha. I make a motion that we make an exception to the fair hiring policy and allow for the hiring of Peyton Watt as a junior lifeguard,
Junior lifeguard, wasn't it?
junior lifeguard, yeah.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Zimmer that as per the fair hiring policy, council supports the hiring of Peyton Watt, who is a relative of a current employee of the town, for a junior lifeguard position.
All in favor? Carried. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion that we adjourn.
We are adjourned. Could you turn the camera off, please?